Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Rafflecopter. Its 30-minute mission to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no gamer has gone before. Yes, this looks like a good place to set it down, Ensign. Make it so.
Stop saying make it so. Commander, why are we even parking here?
Because... shut up.
You shut up.
Shut up!
Hello and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers, by gamers, and spacemen and aliens.
And computers.
Shut up.
Yes, and those. In fact, anything not of this world, because this week we embark on a 30-minute mission to explore the best and worst space games ever made. From Space Invaders to Mass Effect, from Star Wars to StarCraft.
Hang on a minute, Hex. I've got a not-so-good feeling about this. Fire a laser at the ground.
Okay, Commander. Computer, fire laser.
Firing laser. Laser fired.
Before we start the show, Hex, I think you've got to get us out of here.
But why, Commander? We only just got here. That's not logical. There is no logic.
Just do it, man!
Take off, computer!
Initiating takeoff sequence. Ensure that all your tray tables are stowed and locked in the upright position. Turn off all your game consoles. No particular reason, we just like you to be bored at this point. Taking off!
Well, I think we're out of danger for now, Ensign, plus the ship's hard drives need a defrag, so I think it's as good a time as any to start talking about some space games. Engage.
Stop saying engage. There are a few moments that get gamers as excited as this. It was only natural that games would start to explore and expand the Star Wars universe. There's just so much about Star Wars that's great for games. Lightsaber fights, epic space battles, iconic villains, heroes on a journey, supernatural abilities. There's been plenty of Star Wars games already, and there'll be a ton more, and well, that's just fine.
When I think back to the best of the Star Wars games, the first one that pings my mind is Dark Forces.
Yes, in Dark Forces you played as Kyle Katarn, an Imperial officer turned rebel scum.
I should have kept working for the Empire.
As part of the Covert Operations Division, it was Kyle's job to blast his way through a variety of classic Star Wars environments in search of a new enemy, the Dark Troopers.
It was the mid-90s and the FPS genre was still evolving and we were slowly getting more control over how we played first-person shooters. And the big thing that Dark Forces did that no other games really had is that you could just look everywhere, and it's reasonable to assume that this is why so many of the levels were inspired to go vertical.
Yeah, they were certainly inspired levels, if a little frustrating at times, but combined with the ability to duck, jump and swim, it allowed the developers to fill the games with platforming puzzles, exciting spacey moments and a fistfight with Jabba's Kill Dragon.
With the exception of the PS1 version, the game looked great and sounded great, and the 3D was really impressive for its time. And apparently the levels were built with the help of actual architects. There was a freedom when you were playing this game that you hadn't really felt before, and it was a sign of things to come, and it just made you sit back and go, this is cool.
I think a lack of multiplayer and short length were the only real criticisms for this game, but that all changed in Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
Yes, along with a bunch of graphical updates, huge tall levels, and a slightly better and more personal story for Kyle, you got everything that a Star Wars fan wanted. Lightsaber, force powers.
As you progress, the game let you choose the light or dark side, which for a fan was really exciting and added replay value and variety to the gameplay.
Your actions in the game determined one of two endings, a light or a dark ending. I never saw the light one though because it was much cooler to be on the dark side. Multiplayer was just so much fun and could really customize those rounds to your liking as well.
And the cutscenes badge, I just wanted to be in them.
Yeah, they were deliciously awful, but still better than all the prequel movies put together.
Somehow I expected more.
It was quite funny when you'd see the cutscene characters and then you go to the in-game footage and all the heads were these big squares.
I mean, the AI was criticised for being pretty average. It was fun making NPCs dance, but none of that mattered because we had a lightsaber and we could chokehold our friends. Stop that. It's not working.
Wasted 2,000 Rubex on that course and it did nothing.
I remember the moment when I realized that video games could be something more than just a pastime for geeky guys like me was a party a friend of mine had. I walked into this darkened room, 25 adults, watching someone play a game called Star Raiders on the Atari. And that was the first moment I looked at this and I said, okay, something just changed in the world. Because for the first time, it was you in the cockpit of a space fighter doing something. It wasn't you watching somebody, and it wasn't, you controlling a puppet or an avatar. It was you. And that was a life-changing moment for me.
Good game.
What's this computer?
It's a holographic space training program for the commander. I've been monitoring his brainwaves and have noticed a dramatic decline in his cognitive abilities in the last 20 seconds.
Captain's log. Potatoes are delicious. End log.
Must be a space virus. Come on, Commander.
Ooh, holographophone. Today's lesson, Shoot and Scoot, will provide you with an in-depth crash course in the finer points of space and stuffs. And you're going to need it, because space can be hell. The first space war broke out in the year 1962, just as primitive Earth technology was just beginning to develop the basis for artificial intelligence. Space war had begun. Little did we know, someone out there had noticed us intruding on their space affairs. The Space Invaders. By 1978, wave after wave of the Space Invaders descended upon the Earth, speeding up their attacks with each wave we destroyed. We held out for as long as possible, but new foes from the Galaga system arrived with more complex ships, new devious tactics. It was almost a futile battle. Meanwhile, around the outer planets, the great asteroid catastrophe was taking place. Thousands of asteroids from the asteroid belt had been flung towards Earth by the invading aliens. It all came down to one brave, unknown man who went out in his lone spacecraft and saved the Earth from assured destruction. Despite all this conflict, space trading had become a booming industry. Star traders moved through the galaxy, buying low and selling high. And soon we reached far out to other galaxies where the elite traders were born. Many of these elite would fall victim to the evil Thargoids, who would sit and wait, ready to trap naive invaders using their newfound hyperspace technology. Despite this, many young explorers calling themselves freelancers were inspired by these space trading pioneers and entered into the fray with the same goals as the star traders and elites before them. Profit. We would soon travel to galaxies far, far away, where we would discover the light side and the dark side locked in interstellar combat. Countless humans chose sides and entered into this alien conflict, boarding either an X-Wing or a TIE fighter, and engaging in life or death dogfighting. Some, at first, thought these cat-like creatures cute and attempted to domesticate them. This was unwise, and war soon followed. Luckily, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, had joined forces with the Terran as a wing commander.
Pretty slick flying, sir.
Thanks, Chief.
Following on from this conflict, there was a sharp rise into the research of human-animal hybrids. Consisting of a fox, a bird, a frog, and a rabbit, these unlikely heroes proved themselves a valuable addition to humanity's fleet. The rabbit especially exceeded all tactical expectations and developed one of the all-time greatest dogfighting maneuvers.
Do a barrel roll!
Many other noteworthy engagements raged on among the stars, but it wasn't just the pilots who had all the fun. One of the most renowned space bounty hunters was Samus Aran. Samus has single-handedly defended the interests of the Galactic Federation by keeping the space pirate threat at bay for years, as they continually attempted to exploit the powers of the Metroid species. Over the following centuries of exploration, contact was made with many varieties of alien species, some of which are the stuff of legend and nightmare. It's not all doom and gloom, though. One man-made space-age super being that was on our side was the Spartan super soldier, Master Chief, without whom humanity would not exist today.
Attention, all combat personnel. Please report to your action stations.
So, listen up, real-world version of me. Space is a dangerous place. Watch your ass out there, because it's my ass too. And it's fine.
Good game.
Commander? Commander?
Call me Captain.
Captain?
Yes, Ensign?
We're being hailed by another ship.
Computer, on screen.
Computer, on screen.
On screen.
We have Vitas in the build, and we're in urgent need of your assistance.
How about we talk about games and stuff?
What are your favorite space games?
Well, I must say that the computer simulation Dead Space was particularly entertaining. The game's use of futuristic technology made me wish that I had my own zero-gravity basketball court. Plus, it has space zombies!
Ensign, shields up, weapons hot.
Shields up, computer, weapons hot.
Affirmative. Shields up, weapons hot.
Barjo! Hex! No!
Fire at will.
Fire at will, computer.
Firing at will. Space hippies destroyed.
And that's the end of that.
Good game.
Warning! 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 There's a warning happening!
Captain, I'm reading an encoded message from a moon.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
On screen or charge laser?
On screen, then charge laser.
Computer?
I heard him.
What a bitch.
My name is David Jeeves. And I'm a Star Wars fan. My obsession with Star Wars began when I was probably about 4. I got my first action figures from my parents, which was an R2-D2 and a C-3PO. And I acquired a couple of extra figures here and there, and the collection grew and grew and grew, and every time I had a little bit of money on my sleeve, I'd go and buy Star Wars with it. So I've been collecting now for about 26 years. So yeah, 26 years to amass the whole collection. I've probably got hundreds of action figures, hundreds of miniatures, probably thousands of miniatures actually. Probably 100 starships and that sort of stuff. Stacks of novels and comics. I've got heaps of stuff, tons. The suit that I'm wearing is particular favourite of mine. I'd always wanted a Vader costume. And when they produced this costume, I had to have it. So I went about putting some money aside to get it. The suit itself was about $1,500, including the shipping to get it out here. The lightsabers are pretty spectacular as well. Not cheap, they're not the kiddie ones. These are high quality light tubes, I guess you would call them. All of my friends, when they see them, even if they're not Star Wars fans, they're fairly impressed. Gaming's a huge part of the Star Wars experience, huge part. Part of the reason I'm so heavily into Star Wars now is probably as a result of some of the games that have come out. There's no other medium, I think, that allows you to explore the Star Wars universe as much as gaming. Novels and comics are good, movies are good. But once you get your hands on a Star Wars game like Knights of the Old Republic, where you get to actually create the character, you actually get to make decisions for the character in the universe. Because you're allowed to interact, actually be involved with what's going on, it's a completely different experience. And as games tend to have a lot of depth to the stories and characters. There's very few ways to get that immersed in Star Wars, and gaming is one of the few ways of doing it.
Yeah, here we go, it's Jedi time.
In terms of where I'm going with Star Wars, I think it'll always be part of my life. The biggest game I'm waiting for is the Old Republic. On PC, a massively online game. I can see wasting a lot of my hours on that with some of my friends who are all just as keen as me. Am I going to grow out of Star Wars? Highly doubtful. I think I'll always be playing games, reading books, and just generally being involved.
Take that, Wookiees!
How can you not? It's fantastic.
We're receiving a distress signal from that spaceship over there. Shall I put it on screen?
Ensign, Wolf Factor 7!
On screen?
Affirmative.
You have to help us. My ship has been invaded by a sinister alien life form, and we've been infected by a deadly space virus.
Yawn. Less with the virus talk and more with the game talk.
My diagnosis exactly, Ensign. Tell us your favorite space game, space creature.
Well, if I must, it'd be the Metroid Prime trilogy. There were so many intergalactic environments to explore, and scanning everything in sight with Samus's visor was just a great way to advance the story. Probably, though, the best thing of all were the completely epic boss battles.
Good choice, green alien guy. So, how can we help you? Oh, God! We cannot let something that hideous spread across the galaxy.
Charge laser?
Make it so!
Make it so.
Affirmative. It has been made so.
Nothing but the vast, quiet emptiness of space, Ensign.
Certainly looks that way, Commander. I thought I saw a Krogan ship earlier, but it was just a weirdly shaped asteroid.
Ah, the Krogan. My favorite species from the Mass Effect universe.
Oh, Mass Effect, what a great game. It was one of my favorite RPG space gaming experiences, and I think space RPGs were just beginning to find their feet thanks to KOTOR, and I remember being blown away by the world that Mass Effect threw you into.
You took on the role of Commander Shepard, the first human ever accepted into the Spectres, which are kind of like a space version of the UN. There were 3 primary classes to choose from: the soldier, the engineer, and the biotic user, but there were also hybrids that mixed various aspects of each. Each class played differently too, which was great. The biotic class, for example, could use every power, but could only use light armor and pistols, so it was all very balanced.
Yeah, this game gave such great character customization too, not just with the class you chose, but with your appearance and character history as well, which, I mean, to me is really important in an RPG if I'm to really lose myself in that persona.
My family were homesteaders on Mindwar. I'm the only one left.
You know, she looked so cool and she had that hardened badass attitude to match.
I'd rather drink a cup of acid after chewing on a razor blade.
Sometimes I just get distracted watching those amazingly cinematic cutscenes play out because I couldn't stop admiring my handiwork.
The combat had its issues though. Combat in general was a bit clunky because of the AI of your companions. They didn't really help you that much. And also, the AI of the enemies was not very good either. So actually that kind of balanced out in a noobish sort of way. Mass Effect followed on from Knights of the Old Republic's combat system by getting you to manage the various classes of your party in battle. And it's a very tactical game, and it's paced out too, so you do get those breaks in between combat to regroup and set up for the next attack.
As you'd expect from an RPG, you spend a lot of time talking to people. Also, not everything is massively necessary to the plot, so press X to skip became a blessing. Otherwise, I think I would have fallen asleep while some alien yammered on about the history of his people.
We Elcor prefer the safety and familiarity of our own colony.
Goodbye, Ambassador.
Also, you spend way too long in elevators.
With the exception of the male Shepard, who was a bit rubbish, all the voice acting in the game really stood out. You really feel like you're in a world with this game, you know, with that 80s sci-fi soundtrack underneath. And I found myself getting stuck into all those little side quests that I wouldn't normally do, but just because an alien asked me so politely.
The main quest areas took you to these wonderfully detailed city centres with characters to talk to and plot elements to uncover. But side quests that took you to uncharted planets all seem to follow the same pattern of rocks and mountains.
Yeah, the focus of the game was really in those main storyline missions, exploring the Mass Effect universe and talking to other characters. It was early days for this kind of branching storyline thing too, this action of consequence, which you really felt in Mass Effect.
And even more so in its happily sleeker sequel, which really improved, I think, on all of those level design issues from the first. All in all, a great space gaming experience.
We're under attack! We're under attack!
What the frack? Second edition 1 throughout the ship!
Oh, wait. No, it's just an asteroid.
Oh, that one looks like a kitty.
Oh, kitty! Destroy it!
Affirmative. Launching quantum torpedoes.
I actually started working on Wing Commander games, so space games are my favorite games in the entire world.
Well done, laddie.
It's infinite possibilities. You can make anything in space and science fiction. Any idea you have, you can explain away through space, whether it be, I found this planet where the people have magical psychic powers that they can use, or I need these awesome ships to go from place to place, and how would we do that? And is it cryogenic sleep or cryogenic freeze? Like what does that look like? I mean, there's all these different possibilities.
Good game.
Alert! Alert! Alien vessel in range.
What do we do, Captain?
On screen, obviously.
Barjo, Hex, I've been watching your show from across the galaxy and was enraged to find that you did not include any of my favorite games in your 5-Up segments. Therefore, I have come to destroy you.
Well, hang on a minute. Before you destroy us, how about you tell us about your favorite space game? You know, just for lols.
My favorite space game would have to be Space Chase from back in 1993. It was the first game that I remember playing. It doesn't have much to do with space, except that it has a chase and it's in space. But it does have some really cool aliens.
Why is he talking about this really, really boring game?
Charge the laser?
Make that so.
Computer, charge the laser.
Charging laser!
Not very subtle, computer.
Affirmative!
Wait, did you just fire your laser?
Boring alien destroyed.
Of my friend, I can only say this. Of all the souls I've met in my travels, his was the most human.
Barjo, you only just met him.
Orders!
Good game.
Another training hologram, computer?
Affirmative, Ensign. I think some space training could do you some good as well. After all, it worked for the captain.
I'm phasering at a 5th grade level.
Don't break out the champagne just yet, Captain. There are 4,347 grades of phasering.
All right, well, here goes. In today's lesson, we'll teach you the basics of leading your very own army, and you'd better listen well. And the very first example we'll look at today is Paul. Paul was the noble son of Duke Leto Atreides and Lady Jessica. Paul's mission was to drive back their longtime rivals, the House Harkonnen, from the planet Dune in order to secure the valuable spice fields. This conflict and Paul's command has provided the basis for many of today's military strategies. Next up are two of the most unique commanders we've ever put in the field. These two prototype robots, going by the names Brad and Alan, would go on to prove that not only can robots effectively lead armies, they can also get drunk on rocket fuel and be lazy smartasses too. Robotics continued to rapidly improve to the point where there was an attempt to transfer the minds of humans into the body of a machine. Good idea in theory, but in practice, it started a 4,000-year war. On one side are the core forces, a group who transferred their consciousness to machines for everlasting life against their enemy, the armed forces, who reject this unholy merger of man and machine and instead use clones. With each side commanded by a towering armored command unit, this brutal fight will only end with one side in total annihilation. However, these little skirmishes pale in comparison to the most ferocious of space wars. Of course, we're talking about the three-sided battle royale between the Terran, the Protoss, and the Zerg. Millions of commanders have risen and fallen through the ranks of this war, with no signs of a possible lasting peace. Meanwhile, the Galactic Civil War has offered many opportunities for would-be commanders to spread their wings. In this turbulent environment, war was always an inch away as diplomatic relationships rested on knife's edge. Rebellions would rise up, only to be squashed as waves of ground forces crashed upon each other as the Empire desperately struggled to maintain order against the ever-resilient rebel forces. And back in our local galaxy, of course, there are tales of our beloved Federation leaders, Kirk, Picard, Janeway, and the other ones. These were the men and women who led the way for our space program, seeking contact with new alien life, boldly going where no man had gone before. But perhaps one of the most inspiring command operations on record was led by the exiled Kushan people. Forced off their homeworld many thousands of years ago and exiled to the harsh and arid planet of Karak, the Kushan built a mothership to travel to their forgotten home, Higara. Their tale is one of much hardship and perseverance, but ultimately they triumphed over near impossible odds. The Covenant assault on humanity would see many brave commanders step up to fight back the fanatical scourge. Even though most of the commanding officers had only ever seen the battlefield from behind an assault rifle in general infantry. Of course, it's natural to wonder what the future holds, and using sophisticated time-tunneling techniques, we've been able to gain glimpses of events as far away as 40,000 years. What we've seen is a universe locked in a brutal struggle for survival. This future consists of many factions, known as the Orcs, the Eldar, the Tyranids, and Chaos, just to name a few, all vying for control of planets in what seems to be an endless and bloody conflict. But now we need to teach you one of the most effective strategies known to man, the 4X maneuver. Repeat after me. Explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. There are many fine examples of this maneuver in use, from the first colonization of Alpha Centauri through to the continued galactic civilization period, and even through the heretical sins of our solar empire period. 4X has proven itself a versatile and popular strategy among many commanders. Learn these strategies well, younglings, because one day they could save your life, and who knows, maybe you'll actually make it through your first Zerg rush. They're all so dead.
Good game. Admiral.
Go ahead, computer.
Admiral.
Yes, computer?
I'm receiving a priority transmission across all frequencies from Starfleet Command.
On screen.
Affirmative.
You two. What are you doing?
Oh, Mr. Management. Hi. Well, this is the Good Game Space Special. Do you know there's more games made about space than anything else? Yeah.
Well, that may be so, but it's not fulfilling our agreed SIDNIPS initiative, and you're over budget. Consider this a direct order to return to the den of gaming immediately.
Ensign, we can't go back. We've come too far. You take the escape pod. I'm staying with the ship.
I'm staying with you, Captain. To the end.
They'll hunt us down, you know.
Let them try.
Initiating self-destruct sequence.
What? No! I never said that.
4, 3, 2.
I'm sure it's just a drill.
La 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 ha 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 ha.